So, in this little video, I want to talk about Russian propaganda and what Russian propagandists are telling us that they're willing to say. That a bunch of them are together and they're talking about how they basically lie because they don't want to, something makes them uncomfortable or they want to send a particular message or that sort of thing. I'm going to talk about that, but to set the table, I want to talk about this. So today, the big story, as we're getting up and trying to understand what was going on in Ukraine, was about a ballistic missile that hit right next to a children's playground. And then the Russian Ministry of Defense, although it should be called the Russian Ministry of War Crimes, given the above evidence, then lied as they systematically do. I covered this morning, and you can go back to my last video to see that. They claimed, obviously, and quite falsely, that given the evidence that a restaurant with Ukrainian and Western military personnel was struck. They published this on Telegram. You can see this in Russian, or I'll translate. 1849, a high-precision strike was carried out with high-explosive missile. Wait, stop. So it's high-precision. High-precision targeted ballistic missile targeted right next to a playground. 6 kids dead and lots of other people injured. High explosive missile on the site of a meeting with unit commanders and Western instructors in one of the restaurants of the city of Kryvyi Rih. As a result of the strike, the enemy lost up to 85 servicemen and officers of foreign countries, as well as up to 20 vehicles. I mean, they blatantly make crap up, and then, we're supposed to believe them. Okay, so here is what they're saying as these Russian propagandists are in a circle to share their golden standards of Russian wartime propaganda. So here we are. In the current circumstance, journalist ethics don't work. Any sensible journalist saw something on a soldier's desk, marked secret, would be just safe just to keep quiet so as not to end up with a prison sentence, because the circumstances are now somewhat different from those in peacetime, and that was point one. Point two is the effectiveness of propaganda. So, okay, I get that. Like, if you see something that you shouldn't have seen, maybe, okay, there's something to that for ethics. I get it. But then he goes on and goes way off the rails. And this is how Russians tend to think and project what they're doing. And they look just like you or me, right? But they act so different. They think so differently about ethics that it's mind-numbing. Only if the propagandist themselves believes in what they're broadcasting, that's when they become effective. So you make things up, but you have to really kind of, get yourself to believe that thing. Wow, because if they agreed about some nonsense and they come down and drown in alcohol, I agree with vodka or something else, that's blank. And he talks about in war, the concept of some kind of truth isn't used at all. Wow. This concept of truth isn't used at all. If you suddenly learn some information that you think might scare our viewer or the reader, or this war might add the wrong shade or some kind of disappointment, well, some bad things happen. Sometimes you're disappointed. So I go out of my way to make sure that I'm covering things that, I don't want to talk about this, but this is the reality of what's happening so that we can understand the real picture. If you don't want to talk about it, if you want to keep that information to yourself, they say, within the framework of wartime information policy, or you'd like to publish it, absolutely right. I'd keep it to myself, they say. Wow. They keep it to themselves. For us, uncomfortable truth is destructive. Uncomfortable truth is destructive. Well, we don't want to hear uncomfortable truth. Why? Because uncomfortable truth will evoke in us feelings of shame, anger, some kind of displeasure. Some kind of displeasure. We'll feel bad about the uncomfortable truth because, well, if we're talking about the West, right? Or I don't know, we can't do anything bad. Well, we can't do anything bad. It's fascinating. So here's a so-called West, right? I don't know. We can't do anything bad. So if that's your standard, then you have to lie in order to get to where you're going. So of course, we'll deny it to the end. This applies to both the West and us. It's all about everyone. Okay, so but here's the thing that's the real kicker. He really believes not just that we deny it to the end, but of course the other side does the same thing. They project on us what they do, and we're looking at it going like, that's not like, how can you lie about hitting these children on a playground where you can verify it with journalists seeing everything that's there, and then you say this? But that's what they do. All right. Told you I was going to bring this forward to you. What do you think? Put it in the comments below. Thank you for your time, the likes, the shares, the subscribes, the coffees, and thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.